Commander Lee Hyuk stood on the observation deck of Earth Station Alpha, staring at the shimmering wall that had trapped humanity for 1,000 years. The barrier stretched across the entire solar system like a soap bubble made of light. Beyond, it lay the stars that his ancestors once touched, now forbidden and mocking. "Another message came in today," said Dr. Park Mira as she walked up beside him. Her tablet glowed with alien text that the computers had translated. "The Galactic Coalition is having their annual celebration. They're calling it Cage Day again." Lee Hyuk's jaw tightened. Every year for 10 centuries, the galaxy celebrated the day they locked Earth away. They called humans the mad species, who nearly destroyed everything with their wars and violence. The aliens told stories of savage humans who could not be trusted with space travel. "What did they say this time?" he asked. Mira scrolled through the message. "The usual. They're thankful that the primitive humans are safely contained. They joke about how we're probably still hitting each other with sticks." She paused. "One of them suggested turning our solar system into a zoo exhibit." The commander's hands formed fists. His great-grandmother had been alive when the barrier first appeared. She used to tell him stories of human ships that sailed between the stars, of colonies on distant worlds, of the brief moment when humanity reached out to touch the infinite. Then came the wars, the nuclear fires, the aliens' horror at human destructiveness, "Sir," Captain Kim Tae's voice came through the communication system. "You need to see this. There's something happening with the barrier." Lee Hyuk and Dr. Park Mira rushed to the command center. Captain Kim Tae was young, barely 30, but he was one of their best pilots. He had grown up dreaming of the stars he had never seen, building model ships of the human vessels that once crossed space. On the main screen, technical readings showed something impossible. The energy field that surrounded their solar system was fluctuating. For 1,000 years it had been steady as a mountain. Now it wavered like a candle flame in the wind. "When did this start?" asked Lee Hyuk. "About an hour ago," Kim Tae replied. "The changes are small, but they're getting bigger. Dr. Song Min thinks the barrier might be weakening." Dr. Song Min was Earth's leading expert on the alien technology that imprisoned them. She had spent her entire life studying the barrier, trying to understand how it worked. Her research was built on the work of her father and his father before him. 3 generations of the Song family had devoted themselves to the wall that kept humanity caged. "Get me Admiral Cho Yuna," ordered Lee Hyuk, "and prepare a full analysis of the barrier fluctuations. I want to know everything." Admiral Cho Yuna appeared on screen within minutes. She was on the moon base overseeing the construction of new ships. For centuries, humanity had continued building vessels they could never use. It seemed pointless to many, but the military leaders insisted on being ready. "The barrier is changing," Lee Hyuk told her without greeting. "We need to talk." "I know," she replied. "We detected it from Luna Base too. I'm already moving our newest ships into position. If that wall comes down, we need to be prepared." While they talked, Dr. Park Mira worked at her station, running calculations on the barrier's energy patterns. The math was complex, but the conclusion was simple. The alien technology was failing. "Commander," she called out. "I think I know what's happening. The barrier was designed to last exactly 1,000 years. It's not breaking down by accident. It's shutting off on schedule." Everyone in the command center went silent. For 1,000 years they had assumed the barrier would last forever. The aliens had made it seem permanent, like a natural law of the universe. But technology always had limits. Captain Kim Tae was the first to speak. "You mean they always planned to let us out?" "Maybe," said Mira. "Or maybe they thought we would have killed ourselves by now. 1,000 years is a long time for a species they considered primitive and violent." Lee Hyuk thought about this. The aliens who had caged humanity were long-lived species. Some lived for thousands of years. To them, a millennium might feel like a decade to humans. They probably expected to return to a dead solar system, or maybe a few scattered survivors living in caves. Instead, they would find something very different. Earth had not stood still during its imprisonment. The barrier had cut them off from the galaxy, but it had also protected them from interference. Humanity had been free to develop and grow without alien influence. The results had been remarkable. The wars that the aliens feared had ended within a century of the barrier's creation. Humanity had learned to work together when faced with complete isolation. They had focused their energy on science, exploration within their solar system, and preparing for the day they might be free. Their technology had advanced in ways the galaxy could not imagine. Earth's ships were faster and more efficient than anything humanity had possessed before the quarantine. Their computers could think in ways that seemed like magic. Most importantly, they had learned to connect human minds with their machines in ways that created something new. "Sir," Kim Tae said, pointing at his screen, "we're getting more alien communications. They're talking about sending a survey team to check on us." Lee Hyuk smiled for the first time in months. Let them come, he thought. Let them see what 1,000 years of human determination had created. Dr. Park Mira looked up from her calculations. "The barrier will fail completely within the week. When it does, our ships will be free to leave the solar system for the first time in a millennium. Then we better make sure we're ready," said Admiral Cho Yuna through the communication link. "I have a feeling the galaxy is about to get a very big surprise." As if responding to her words, the barrier flickered. For just a moment, the wall of light that surrounded their solar system went dark. Through the gap, the stars shone bright and clear. The galaxy had taunted Earth for 1,000 years. Soon they would remember why they had been afraid in the first place. The barrier fell on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Ambassador Kang-Soo felt the moment it happened, even though he was deep inside Luna Base preparing for humanity's first diplomatic mission in 1,000 years. The sensation was like a weight being lifted from his shoulders, a pressure he had never noticed until it was gone. "It's done," General Yunhai announced over the base-wide communication system. "The barrier is completely offline. We are free." Kang-Soo looked at himself in the mirror of his quarters. He wore a simple blue uniform, designed to look friendly but professional. In a few hours, he would board the fastest ship humanity had ever built and fly to the nearest alien world. He would be the first human most of these beings had ever seen in person. The ship waiting for him was called the Rising Sun. It looked nothing like the old human vessels from before the quarantine. Those ships had been metal boxes with engines attached. The Rising Sun flowed like water made solid, its surface shifting between blue and silver as it prepared for flight. Captain Kim Tae would pilot the ship. He had trained his whole life for this moment, learning to fly by connecting his mind directly to the ship's computer systems. The technology was something humanity had developed during their isolation, a way of thinking together with machines that created speeds and reactions impossible with manual controls. "Are you ready for this?" Kim Tae asked as they walked through the ship's corridors. The walls hummed softly, responding to their presence. "No," Kang-Soo replied honestly. "But that's never stopped humans before." The Rising Sun launched from Luna Base and accelerated toward the edge of the solar system. Within hours, they passed the invisible line where the barrier had once stood. Kim Tae felt the ship respond to his thoughts, pushing faster than any human vessel had ever moved. "Jump in 30 seconds, he announced. "Destination, Proxima Station, the nearest alien outpost." The jump drive was another human innovation from their centuries of isolation. Instead of traveling through space, their ships could skip across it, moving from point to point almost instantly. The technology required a pilot and ship to work as one mind, something the aliens had never imagined possible. Space twisted around them, and suddenly they were somewhere else. Proxima Station hung in the void like a metal flower, its petals spread wide to catch the light of a distant star. Alien ships moved around it in careful patterns, following traffic routes that had been the same for centuries. Then the Rising Sun appeared. Alarms began sounding throughout the station. The alien traffic controllers had never seen a ship move the way the human vessel moved. It seemed to dance through space, avoiding obstacles without slowing down, responding to Kim Tae's thoughts faster than any computer could calculate. "Unknown vessel," came a message in the common galactic language. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. Ambassador Kang Su activated the communication system. This is Ambassador Kang Su of Earth, requesting permission to dock and speak with station authorities. The silence that followed lasted almost a full minute. Did you say Earth? The alien voice finally responded. That is impossible. The humans are contained in their system. They cannot travel. The containment field has been deactivated, Kang Su replied calmly. We wish to establish peaceful contact with the Galactic Coalition. More silence. Then multiple alien voices began talking at once, their translation coming through in overlapping fragments. Words like impossible and primitive and dangerous filled the communication channel. Captain Kim Tae guided the Rising Sun to a docking port designed for much larger ships. The human vessel adjusted its size and shape to fit, flowing, like liquid, into the proper configuration. This simple display of technology made the watching aliens go quiet again. Ambassador Kang Su stepped onto Proxima Station and found himself surrounded by beings he had only seen in old records. There were tall, thin creatures with gray skin and large eyes. Others looked like walking plants, their movements slow and deliberate. A few resembled giant insects, their communication coming through translator devices. You cannot be here, said the station commander, a being that looked like a cross between a bird and a lizard. Humans are contained. This is known throughout the galaxy. Was contained, Kang Su corrected gently. The barrier was temporary. It was always meant to end after 1,000 years. The alien commander's feathers ruffled with agitation. Impossible. The containment was permanent. Humans are too dangerous to travel between stars. You nearly destroyed everything with your wars. Kang Su had prepared for this response. He activated a small device that projected images into the air between them. The images showed Earth as it was now. Cities of gleaming towers, oceans clean and blue, forests covering continents that had once been wastelands. This is Earth today, he said. The wars ended 900 years ago. We have learned to live in peace with ourselves and our world. The aliens stared at the images. Some of them began talking quietly among themselves in languages the translators could not handle. Your technology, said a plant-like being. Your ship moves in ways we do not understand. How did you develop such capabilities while contained? We had 1,000 years to think, Kang Su replied. Being alone gave us time to solve problems that had seemed impossible. This was not entirely true, but it was not entirely false either. Humanity had indeed spent their isolation developing new technologies, but they had also developed something more important: the ability to work together as a single species, to share knowledge freely, and to connect their minds with their machines in ways that created entirely new possibilities. We must contact the Coalition Council, the station commander said. This changes everything. Of course, agreed Kang Su. That's why we're here. While the aliens began their urgent communications with higher authorities, Captain Kim Tae ran tests on the station's systems. What he discovered was disturbing. The alien technology had barely advanced in the 1,000 years since Earth's containment. Their computers were slower than what humans had been using 500 years ago. Their ships were essentially the same designs they had been building for millennia. The galaxy had grown comfortable and lazy, while humanity had been forced to innovate or die. Ambassador, Kim Tae said quietly, I think we need to be very careful here. These people have been telling themselves that we're primitive savages for 1,000 years. Learning the truth might be difficult for them. Kang Su nodded. He had come to the same conclusion. The aliens had built their entire understanding of the universe around the idea that humans were dangerous children who needed to be contained. Discovering that the children had grown up and grown up strong would be a shock that might shatter their confidence. But the truth had a way of revealing itself, whether people were ready for it or not. As reports of the human ship spread through the galactic communication networks, panic began to set in. The impossible had happened. The caged animals had opened their own cage, and they had evolved far beyond what anyone had imagined possible. The galaxy was about to learn that keeping humanity isolated had been the greatest mistake in their long history. Dr. Song Min sat in the deepest archive on Earth, surrounded by records that went back 1,000 years. The alien data streams that Ambassador Kang Su was sending from Proxima Station had revealed something troubling, and she was determined to find the truth. "Show me the original containment records," she told the archive computer. Everything from the year the barrier was erected. Holographic displays filled the air around her, showing documents in dozens of languages. Most were in alien script, but the computer translated them into human languages as she read. What she found made her hands shake with anger. Colonel Jang Hoon arrived an hour later, summoned by her urgent message. He was Earth's head of intelligence, a man who had spent his career preparing for the day when humanity would meet the galaxy again. "You found something," he said, looking at her expression. "I found everything," Songmin replied, "and it's not what they told us." She gestured to the floating documents around them. "These are the real records from the Galactic Coalition Council, the ones they never meant for us to see. The barrier wasn't created because we were violent, Jang Hoon. It was created because we were evolving too fast." The colonel studied the documents, his face growing dark as he read. The translated text told a very different story than the one the galaxy had been telling for 1,000 years. "Look at this report," Songmin said, highlighting one particular document. "It's from a Galactic Coalition science team that studied early human colonies. They were terrified by what they found." Jang Hoon read aloud, "Human subjects display unprecedented adaptation rates. Their technology development exceeds all known species by factor of 10. Most concerning, evidence of collective problem-solving. Behaviors emerging. Recommend immediate containment before species reaches transcendence threshold." "Transcendence threshold?" he asked. Songmin pulled up more documents. According to their science, most species hit a natural limit to their development. They reach a point where they stop growing, stop learning, stop changing. It's why galactic technology has been basically the same for thousands of years. But humans were different. The records showed that early human colonies had begun developing technologies that the aliens could not understand. Worse, from their perspective, humans seemed to be evolving the ability to share thoughts and work together as a single organism, while still maintaining individual personalities. "They weren't afraid of our violence," Songmin continued. "They were afraid of our potential. The wars on Earth were just an excuse they used to justify containing us." Professor Nam-On joined them in the archives, called by Jang Hoon's message. She was Earth's leading expert on alien biology, and she had been studying the species records that Ambassador Kang Su was gathering. "The timing makes sense now," she said after reviewing Songmin's discoveries. "Every species in the galaxy hit their development peak thousands of years ago. They've been essentially unchanged ever since. But humans kept growing." She showed them her analysis of alien brain structures. "Look at this. Their neural networks are fixed, locked into patterns that never change. They learn, but they don't adapt. They can't imagine solutions that fall outside their existing knowledge." "But we can," said Jang Hoon. "We can," Nam-Yoon confirmed. And that terrified them. A species that never stops growing, never stops learning, never reaches a limit. From their perspective, we were going to surpass them completely. Songmin pulled up the most damaging document of all. "This is the real reason for the barrier. Listen to this. Containment field will prevent human expansion until species dies out or development stagnates to acceptable levels. Estimated timeline, 500 years maximum. They expected us to go extinct," Jang Hoon said. "Or become like them," Nam-Yoon added. "Fixed, limited, safe." Instead, the opposite had happened. Cut off from alien influence, humanity had grown in ways the galaxy had never imagined possible. The barrier that was meant to limit them had instead protected them from outside interference, allowing their natural development to continue unchecked. "We need to contact Earth Command," Songmin said. "And we need to warn Ambassador Kang Su. The galaxy isn't going to react well to learning the truth." As if summoned by her words, Commander Lee Hyuk's image appeared in the archive. He was calling from Earth Station Alpha, where monitoring systems were tracking dozens of alien ships moving toward human space. "We have a problem," he announced. The galaxy is mobilizing a fleet. Ambassador Kang Su's presence at Proxima Station has caused panic throughout the coalition. It's worse than that, Songmin told him. We've discovered why they really contained us. Send Colonel Jang Hoon the files. Everyone needs to know the truth. While the files transferred, Nam Yoon worked on her biological analysis. What she found was even more disturbing than the political revelations. Commander, she said, I've been studying the alien species records. There's something wrong with them. Their development didn't just slow down naturally. It was artificially limited. What do you mean? Lee Hyuk asked. I mean, someone or something has been controlling galactic evolution for thousands of years. Every species hits the same developmental wall at roughly the same point. The odds of that happening naturally are essentially zero. The implications were staggering. Not only had the galaxy lied about the reasons for humanity's containment, but they themselves might be victims of an even older control system. Who would do such a thing? Jang Hoon asked. The coalition's founding species, Namyoon replied. The ones who created the government structure thousands of years ago. They're the only ones old enough to have established such a system. Song. Min was already searching through the oldest records. Here, she said, highlighting ancient documents. The Founder's Doctrine. Galactic stability requires development limits. Species exceeding approved parameters must be contained or eliminated. They've been doing this to everyone, Lee Hyuk realized. Any species that showed too much potential was either contained like us, or they disappeared from the records. Entirely, Songmin finished. There are gaps in galactic history, species that were mentioned in early documents but vanished completely. The truth was becoming clear. Humanity hadn't been contained because they were dangerous to the galaxy. They had been contained because they were dangerous to a system of control that had kept the galaxy artificially limited for millennia. This changes our entire approach, Commander Lee Hyuk said. We're not just dealing with species that misunderstood us. We're dealing with a system designed to prevent any species from reaching their full potential. The question is, said Jang Hoon, what do we do about it? Through the communication link, they could hear alarms beginning to sound throughout Earth's defensive systems. The galaxy was coming and they were bringing ships designed for war. But they were not prepared for what humanity had become during their 1,000 years of forced isolation. The species that had been contained for being too dangerous was about to show the galaxy exactly why the founders had been afraid. The truth had been buried for 1,000 years, but truth had a way of setting itself free. And when it did, the entire structure of galactic civilization was going to crumble. Song Min looked at the ancient records floating around her and smiled grimly. The galaxy had taunted Earth for 1,000 years, calling them primitive and contained. Soon, they would learn that primitive species don't build technologies that can rewrite the laws of physics. The real revelation was just beginning. Fleet Admiral Shinbo stood in the command center of the Eternal Dawn, humanity's largest warship. Around her, dozens of screens showed alien fleets moving toward human space from all directions. The Galactic Coalition had mobilized everything they had, bringing ships from 100 different worlds. How many are we facing? She asked Commander Osei, who led the ship's tactical systems. Approximately 12,000 vessels, he replied. Battleships, cruisers, fighters, and support craft. It's the largest fleet the galaxy has assembled in over 2,000 years. Admiral Shinbo nodded calmly. The numbers were impressive, but numbers weren't everything. And our fleet? 300 ships, Commander Osei said. But Admiral, our ships aren't like theirs. That was an understatement. The human vessels surrounding Earth looked nothing like the alien fleets approaching them. Where the alien ships were angular metal constructs bristling with weapons, the human ships flowed like living things, their surfaces shifting and changing as they prepared for battle. Dr. Lim Da worked at her station, connected directly to the ship's consciousness, through neural interface cables that ran from her skull to the command console. She was the ship's mind partner, able to think and react at computer speeds while maintaining human intuition and creativity. The alien fleets are using standard approach patterns, she reported, her voice slightly distant as she communed with the ship's systems. They haven't updated their tactics in centuries. They expect us to meet them with conventional ships using conventional weapons. Show them how wrong they are, Admiral Shinbo ordered. The human fleet moved as one organism. Ships that had been scattered across the solar system suddenly appeared in formation, having used their jump drives to cross millions of kilometers in seconds. The alien commanders watched their sensors in confusion as human vessels seemed to teleport around the battlefield. Unknown human ships, came a transmission from the alien fleet commander. You are vastly outnumbered. Surrender now and return to your containment. Admiral Shinbo opened a channel to respond. This is Fleet. Admiral Shinbo of the Earth Defense Force. We are no longer contained and we will not return to imprisonment. Withdraw your fleets now or face the consequences. The alien commander's response was filled with scorn. You have 300 primitive ships against our 12,000 advanced vessels. You cannot win this battle. You're right, Admiral, Shinbo replied. This won't be a battle. The human ships began to change. Their fluid surfaces rippled and transformed. Weapon systems emerging that looked nothing like traditional space combat equipment. The aliens had expected projectile, weapons and energy beams. Instead, the human ships began to manipulate space itself. Commander OC coordinated the attack from his position, his mind linked to the tactical computers. Phase 1, Reality Displacement, he announced. The first wave of alien ships simply ceased to exist in normal space. They weren't destroyed. They were moved somewhere else entirely. The human ships had learned to fold space-time, creating pockets of altered reality where matter could be stored safely until the battle was over. What are they doing to our ships? Screamed voices from the alien fleet as hundreds of vessels vanished, without a trace. Phase 2, Consciousness Disruption, Commander OC continued. The human ships projected fields that interfered with alien thought patterns. Species that had relied on the same neural structures for thousands of years suddenly found their minds clouded and confused. Pilots couldn't remember how to fly their ships. Gunners couldn't target their weapons. Command structures collapsed, as officers forgot their own names. Dr. Lim Da monitored the alien fleet's condition through the ship's sensors. They're not being harmed, she reported. Their life signs are stable. They're just temporarily unable to think clearly. This was humanity's greatest discovery during their isolation, the ability to affect consciousness itself. By linking human minds with quantum computers, they had learned to project thoughts and emotions across space, to heal damaged minds or temporarily disable hostile ones. Phase 3, Technological Integration, Admiral Shinbo ordered. The human ships moved among the confused alien vessels like shepherds among sheep. Instead of destroying the enemy ships, they began to merge with them, human technology flowing into alien systems and upgrading them in real time. Within minutes, the alien fleet found their ships operating at levels of efficiency they had never imagined possible. Their weapons were more powerful, their shields stronger, their engines faster, but they were no longer in control of their own vessels. This is impossible, the alien fleet commander transmitted, his voice filled with wonder and fear. How are you doing this? We spent 1,000 years learning to work together, Admiral Shinbo replied. Not just humans with humans, but humans with our machines, our ships, our entire civilization. We've become something new. The truth was that humanity had achieved what the aliens had always feared. They had transcended the normal limits of biological and technological development. Human consciousness could interface directly with quantum systems, allowing them to manipulate matter and energy in ways that seemed magical to species still bound by conventional thinking. Your ships are now part of our network, Dr. Lim Da announced to the alien fleet. You can return home safely, but your governments will find that their vessels now carry human technology. Whether they choose to use it for growth or try to destroy, it is up to them. This was humanity's strategy, not conquest, but transformation. They could have destroyed the alien fleet easily, but instead they chose to demonstrate their capabilities while leaving room for peaceful resolution. Commander OC coordinated the release of the displaced ships, bringing them back into normal space far from the battle zone. The alien crews found themselves safe but thoroughly defeated. their weapons useless and their understanding of the universe fundamentally changed. "Retreat," came the order from the alien fleet command. "All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance." As the alien fleet withdrew, Ambassador Kang Su's voice came through from Proxima Station. "Admiral, the station authorities are requesting immediate communication with Earth. They want to negotiate." "Tell them we're ready to talk," Admiral Shinbo replied. "But the conversation needs to include the founders. It's time for the galaxy to learn the truth about their own history." The battle had lasted less than an hour, but its effects would reshape galactic civilization forever. 12,000 alien ships had been defeated by 300 human vessels without a single casualty on either side. More importantly, the alien crews had experienced firsthand what it meant to have their technology enhanced by human consciousness integration. Dr. Lim Da disconnected from the ship's systems, her eyes refocusing on the physical world. "The quantum networks are stable," she reported. "Every alien ship that was integrated is now broadcasting human technological upgrades throughout their home systems. The effect will spread exponentially." "You mean we've infected their entire civilization with our technology?" Commander OC asked. "Not infected," Admiral Shinbo corrected. "Enhanced. We've given them the tools to break free from whatever has been limiting their development. What they do with those tools is their choice." Through the viewports of the Eternal Dawn, they could see alien ships in the distance, their hulls now showing the flowing, adaptive characteristics of human vessel design. The integration was working both ways. Human technology was spreading to the aliens while human understanding was growing from contact with new forms of consciousness. "Admiral," came a transmission from Earth Command. "We're receiving surrender requests from 17 different alien governments. They want to discuss terms for ending the containment protocols." Admiral Shinbo smiled. The galaxy had tried to cage humanity for 1,000 years, but cages only worked if the prisoner wanted to stay inside. Humanity had grown beyond the need for cages, and now they were offering to help everyone else do the same. The real war wasn't against the aliens who had imprisoned them. It was against the system that had been keeping every species in the galaxy from reaching their true potential. And that war was just beginning. President Baekhyun stood before the Galactic Council, the first human to enter their ancient halls in over 1,000 years. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, their various forms creating a living rainbow of galactic diversity. But today they all shared the same expression: fear mixed with desperate hope. The journey to the galactic capital had taken Admiral Park Jong's fleet just 3 days, crossing distances that should have required months using conventional faster-than-light travel. Human ships moved through folded space like thoughts through a dreaming mind, arriving at their destination before most observers realized they had left. "Honored representatives," President Baekhyun began, her voice carried by translation systems. "To every species present, we come not as conquerors but as partners. The age of containment is over." In the weeks following the failed attack on Earth, chaos had spread throughout galactic civilization. The human technology that had integrated with the alien fleet had continued to spread, carried by quantum networks that connected ship to ship, world to world. Entire civilizations found their capabilities expanding beyond anything they had experienced in millennia. Dr. Choi Yeon worked from her mobile laboratory aboard the diplomatic ship, studying the effects of technological integration on different species. Her research showed remarkable results. Alien minds that had been locked in fixed patterns for thousands of years were beginning to show signs of renewed growth and creativity. "The barriers are breaking down," she reported to President Baek-kyung during a brief recess in the negotiations. "Not just technological barriers, but mental ones. Species that haven't had a new idea in centuries are suddenly inventing things we never imagined." This was the opposite of what the galaxy's founders had intended. The ancient species that had established the Galactic Coalition had designed their system to prevent exactly this kind of rapid development. They believed that unlimited growth led to chaos and destruction, but they were not present to defend their philosophy. The founders had retreated to their hidden worlds when the human ships arrived, leaving their younger protégés to face the consequences of 1,000 years of imposed stagnation. "Where are they?" demanded Counselor Vex Talon of the Rigel Confederation, his translator struggling with the angry harmonics in his voice. "The Founders promised they would protect us from dangerous species. Where are they now that the humans have returned?" President Baek Kyung had been expecting this question. "The Founders are afraid," she replied simply. "They built their power on the belief that growth must be limited, that species must be kept in carefully controlled boxes. We represent everything they fear: unlimited potential, cooperative development, and the willingness to share power rather than hoard it." She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy as it had been when the Founders first took control, compared to how it was now. The difference was striking. Thousands of years ago, the galaxy had been full of diverse civilizations experimenting with different technologies and social systems. Now it was uniform and stagnant, with every species following the same basic patterns. "They didn't create stability," she continued. "They created stagnation, and we're here to offer you something better." Admiral Park Jong's voice came through the communication system. "Madam President, we're detecting movement from the Founder worlds. They're launching something." The council chamber erupted in nervous chatter as species representatives tried to contact their homeworlds. Many found their communications blocked or redirected, a sign that the Founders were taking direct control of galactic infrastructure. "They're going to try to reset the containment protocols," realized Counselor Nix Shara of the Centauri Union. "Not just for humans, but for everyone. They want to undo the technological integration." President Baek Kyung remained calm. This had been anticipated. "Admiral Park Jong, implement the Awakening Protocol." Across the galaxy, human consciousness networks activated simultaneously. Every ship, station, and world that had been touched by human technology suddenly blazed with new awareness. The quantum connections that linked human minds with their machines expanded to include any system that had been integrated with human technology. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Alien species that had never experienced direct mind-to-machine interface suddenly found themselves thinking at computer speeds. Civilizations that had been isolated from each other for millennia discovered they could share thoughts and ideas instantaneously across interstellar distances. Dr. Choi Yeon monitored the process from her laboratory, watching as neural patterns across the galaxy shifted and evolved in real time. "It's working," she reported. "The integrated systems are bootstrapping consciousness expansion in species that have never experienced it before." "What have you done to us?" gasped Counselor Zara Nim of the Vega Collective, her large eyes wide with shock as her mind suddenly expanded beyond anything she had ever imagined possible. "We've given you back what the Founders took away," President Baek Kyung replied. "The ability to grow, to change, to become more than you were." The Founders' response was swift and desperate. Ancient weapon systems that had been hidden throughout the galaxy activated, firing beams of energy designed to disrupt the quantum networks spreading human consciousness expansion. But the networks were already too widespread, too integrated with essential galactic infrastructure. Every attempt to shut down the human technology only demonstrated how dependent galactic civilization had become on the systems the Founders had installed. Shutting down human enhancements meant shutting down power grids, transportation networks, and communication systems. "They can't stop it," Admiral Park Jong reported. "The integration has reached critical mass. Even if they destroyed every human ship in the galaxy, the consciousness networks would continue expanding." This was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Not technology, but the ability to think and grow beyond artificial limits. The quantum consciousness networks weren't just connecting minds to machines. They were connecting minds to other minds, creating a web of shared intelligence that spanned entire star systems. "We need to make a choice," President Baek Kyung told the assembled council. "We can work together to build something better than what the Founders created, or we can let fear divide us while they try to force everyone back into cages." The vote, when it came, was not even close. Species after species chose to join the human consciousness networks, to embrace the growth and change that had been denied to them for millennia. The few who voted against did so out of fear rather than preference for the old system. As the galactic government formally dissolved and reformed around principles of cooperative development rather than controlled stagnation, the founders made their final play. Ancient ships emerged from hidden worlds, carrying weapons designed to destroy stars themselves. But they were too late. The galaxy was no longer the same collection of isolated, limited species they had controlled for thousands of years. Human consciousness expansion had created something new, a galactic civilization that could think and act as a single organism while preserving the individuality and uniqueness of every species within it. Founders' fleet detected, Admiral Park Jong reported, approximately 50 Starkiller weapons approaching the galactic core. "Stand down all human ships," President Baek Kyung ordered. "Let our new partners handle this." The response came not from human vessels, but from the enhanced alien ships throughout the galaxy. Thousands of vessels that had been upgraded with human technology moved as one, their crews thinking together across impossible distances. The founders' weapons were not destroyed. They were simply relocated to empty space where they could harm no one. The ancient species that had controlled galactic development for millennia found themselves surrounded by the very civilizations they had tried to keep limited. But instead of revenge, they were offered the same gift that had been given to everyone else: the chance to grow beyond their fear. Dr. Choi Yeon's final report was simple. Integration successful. Galactic consciousness networks stable and expanding. Species development rates increasing exponentially across all measured parameters. President Baek Kyung looked out at the galaxy through the viewports of the diplomatic ship. Everywhere she looked, she could see signs of the awakening. New kinds of ships being built by species that had never imagined such designs. Communications networks carrying ideas between worlds that had never spoken before, and most importantly, the light of hope shining from systems that had been dark for far too long. The galaxy had taunted Earth for 1,000 years, calling humanity primitive and dangerous. But in the end, it was humanity that had remembered what the galaxy had forgotten: that growth and change were not things to be feared, but gifts to be shared with anyone willing to reach for them. The age of containment was over. The age of unlimited potential had begun.